Hi, this is Miss Wright, and I am going to do a quick review of the author's purpose and attention. Attention must be paid from Act 1 of Death of a Salesman. All right, so when we talk about the author's purpose, we want to keep in mind that the author has written a play with certain themes in mind, and the characters are a vehicle to help us to understand those themes. The characters are acting out the ideas that surround those themes or relate to those themes. And also, we should keep in mind the author's purpose can be influenced by what's happening in society at the time that he or she was living, um, because many times authors are commenting or responding to what they see happening in their society. So they might set a play like 100 years, 200 years, 500 years in the past, but what they're really doing is pointing out something that's going on in their society. Okay, the passage that I'm going to discuss, the attention must be paid passage, comes as we get to the end of Act 1, and Linda is chastising her son, Biff, because she feels that Biff has a deep hatred or contempt for his father, and he wishes he had a different father. And he puts Charlie up as a better man than his father. And Linda takes great umbrage with that. I want you to think about this passage in relationship to the Juliet speech after Juliet finds out that Romeo has killed her cousin. She has to make a decision about whether she's a Capulet or a Montague, and is she going to stand up for her husband or not. And she finally decides that she is Juliet Montague, that Romeo is her new family. And in a way, Linda stands up for her husband, um, to Biff, and says, look, you can't love me and not love him. If you're going to come here, you've got to come here to see both of us. You can't come to see me and ignore your father or act like your father is beneath you and not worthy of respect. So she says these iconic lines. Says Linda, then make Charlie your father, Biff. You can't do that, can you? I don't say he's a great man. Willy Loman never made a lot of money. His name was never in the paper. He's not the finest character that ever lived, but he's a human being, and a terrible thing is happening to him. So attention must be paid. He's not to be allowed to fall into his grave like an old dog. Attention must finally be paid to such a person. So you can see here that Linda is standing up for her husband to her son. But that's not the only thing that's happening here. By this point in the story, a lot of my students will say, does he have dementia? Is he going crazy? And I try to tell them this is not a story about a man who's going crazy. This is a story about so much more. And so when the author says, attention must finally be paid to such a person, it's not just Linda talking to her son, it's the author talking to the audience. Don't decide so early that this man is not worth your time. The author has created him for a purpose, to make us see something about our society and to make us see something about ourselves. So we really need to keep an open mind before we can come to a full understanding of what this man's life is really about, and what his value is or is not. So the passage continues when it says, "You call him crazy? No. A lot of people think he's lost his balance, but you don't have to be very smart to know what his trouble is. The man is exhausted. A small man can be just as exhausted as a great man. He works for a company 36 years. This March opens up unheard of territories to their trademark, and now, in his old age, they take his salary away." So she says that you don't have to be very smart to see what's wrong with him. He's exhausted. You know, a man who goes to work every day and makes $100 a day comes home tired. And a man who goes to work every day and makes $1,000 a day, he may come home tired, or he may not be as tired because maybe he had people to help him. But um, the man who made much less sometimes has to work so much harder for less money. And so Willie right now is making no money. He goes to work every day without the assurance of bringing home a paycheck because he's on commission. If he doesn't sell, he doesn't earn. And this is after 36 years of working for the same company. He has no assurance that he's going to make a living. And it's exhausting, it's stressful. And the author wants us to pay attention because there are millions and millions and millions of people who go to work every day. They work for very meager wages. They come home exhausted. Are their lives of any value? Or are they just anonymous faces in a crowd? Arthur Miller would argue that every one of those people has a life of value, just like a rich man, a great man, a president, that each one of those individuals has their own story, their own value, and that we should be paying attention to them. Okay, just to reiterate, Linda says, no, a lot of people think he's lost his balance. This is when my students are asking me, is he crazy? Does he have dementia? No. This is not about a crazy man. This is about so much more. And if you think Willie is so different from us, he's not. He's like every one of us. He is a common man, the ordinary person. And the author's purpose here is to tell us that his life is worth something. His life is of value. If it's not of value, then when he dies, it doesn't mean anything. But we should really feel a loss when we lose Willie. Okay? That was my take on the author's purpose, and the attention must be paid. It's a really important page in the play. It's on page 56. Take a look at it yourself. Think about it. And remember, the author's purpose has to do with why the author has written the play. So keep asking yourself that question. And also, you might want to do some research. What was happening in society in 1949? What was America like in 1949 that may have influenced Arthur Miller to write this play? Okay, that's all I have to say. I kept it under 10 minutes, and I will see you back in class. Shout out to my period 7. Bye-bye.